All right, Sara, we're live, and good afternoon and welcome. My name is John Nerrill. I help professionals who are ambitious about their careers create their next advancement opportunity. And I am so honored to have as my guest today, Sara Trevino from Viceroy Talent. Sara, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thank you so much. It's such an honor.
Same, thank you. And it looks gorgeous where you are. So you've got a nice day outside, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear the birds chirping, but it's like an aviary here. You can see bird feeders behind me. They're out on this warm summer day, even though it's already almost October. It still feels like summer.
We were talking the other day as we were prepping for the call, and I don't know where the summer has gone. It has just flown by.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because I was posting some different stuff on Instagram and talking to different people and setting things up. And I kept saying October when talking about this weekend, and then realized later, wait, it's not October yet. But it feels like it's already here. I mean, it's just everything has happened so quickly this summer. So I feel you.
Agreed. So, Sara, we're welcoming a few people into the room who are joining us live, and so I just want to extend a hello and a welcome to everybody. If you're new to the show and this is your first time watching, thank you so much for joining. Just as we welcome a few more people into the room, I've got a great resource that is on my website at johnnerrill.com/free. It is called 3 Steps to Creating Your Next Advancement Opportunity Without Feeling Overwhelmed. It's an e-workbook designed to help you listen, lean in, and step forward as you go to create whatever is next for your career. And you can find that along with a wealth of resources in the Learning Hub on my website at johnnerrill.com, including all of the interviews and Facebook Lives I get to do. So, Sara, this video will be posted on my website and on my YouTube channel by the end of the week, so people can find you there.
Great.
All right. So, full disclosure, Sara and I used to work for the same company, but we never knew each other. And so we got connected through our mutual friend Terry. So, big shout out to her for connecting us. And you and I have had a couple of conversations, and I have just been so impressed by your energy and your drive and how you show up professionally and energetically. That is the reason why I wanted to have you on the show today, to just interview you and ask you some questions really about what it means to own your pivot and how to really go after and chase your dreams in your career. So Sara, as we get started, if you could just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what's really brought you here to this moment in your career.
Yeah. Thanks, John. So, gosh, that's a little, how much time do we have on this podcast interview? No, but like you mentioned, we worked together at the same company, and I think kind of doing different things, but my background is industrial psychology, and I've been doing that kind of work, which is kind of like, for those listening who don't know what that is, it's basically like a hybrid of psychology and business and HR kind of all mixed together, and using principles of psychology to solve real world problems in the business world. So workforce solutions, helping with recruitment or selection and training, evaluating programs, retention, all of that kind of stuff. But all kind of founded in and rooted in psychology. So that's what I've been doing for over 6 years now, and have really met a lot of wonderful people along the way. But I also am a musician. I've been singing about as long as I could talk, and playing the piano for a long time, and mostly just kind of as a hobby. And I played like at my church and stuff like that, but not really kind of professionally, but it was fun. And an opportunity came forward for me to move to Nashville. I knew some people here who were already here, and I just really was wanting to do something different. And the opportunity came up to help start a new church here in Nashville. So, and I knew some of the people who were involved with that, and they really needed some help. And I took it as an opportunity to just do it, to just dive in. I thought, why not? You know, now is the time when I can do that kind of thing. I looked at it like an adventure. I didn't really know anybody other than the few people that, that were starting the church. And I knew some people who had lived in Nashville in the past and they loved it, including a coworker who was from Nashville. So I thought, okay, I was in DC at the time, working for that firm, and Washington, DC and Nashville are very different. So I have to say, for a lot of different reasons, but but also very cool. And I had to get over a lot of kind of preconceived notions that I had about what Nashville would be like and what the people would be like here. I kind of pictured it to be kind of, I don't know, just real country. And I mean, it is, to be fair, but but it's also not. It's also very urban and very hipster. The hipsters have taken over. Everywhere you go, it's the hipsters and all those. And the plague of our city is those pedal taverns. I don't know if most people may or may not know this, that Nashville is actually like the bachelorette capital of the U.S., bachelorette party capital. So there are more bachelorette parties in downtown Nashville than pretty much anywhere else. And so people call it Nash Vegas. And because of that, because of all the parties that happen. But so it's very different than what I thought it would be. But I decided to make that change. So that was the first step, was just kind of trying a new city, trying a new environment, and really getting involved in the music scene, which is something I had wanted to do. And Nashville has an awesome music scene. There's just so much happening here. I like to say that, you throw a rock and you hit a musician. Everywhere you go, people are musicians. You're from your Uber or Lyft driver to your cashier to your Starbucks barista or whatever. You're most likely going to be talking to someone who's also a musician, and probably a singer-songwriter, somebody who wants to write music and maybe even be on the big stage or on the radio someday and that kind of stuff. I mean, so many people have dreams here, and it's interesting because in DC, where I was before, everyone had dreams there too. But they were just very different dreams, and people wanted to work on the Hill, or they wanted to, make a political impact, or they wanted to work for a nonprofit and really change lives and have an impact that way. And they had all these big dreams of, the difference their life was going to make. And here it's more about big dreams on, what great, are you going to write the next great song? Side note, a friend of mine actually is best friends with a person who just won Songland. So I was like, oh, wow. I mean, we say it's 6 degrees of separation. It's really in Nashville, it's like 2 degrees of separation. You pretty much are going to know someone who knows someone, who's done something big or whatever. I mean, it's just, everyone's so connected here. So on that note, I've found that it's all about connections. It's all about relationships in the music industry. And I just started hearing from different people like, hey, have you ever thought about artist management? I think that you'd be really good at it. You're a natural connector. You like to connect people. And that is something that I do naturally. I'm always wanting to be like, oh, hey, John, I think you might be interested in meeting, so-and-so over here because you guys both have interest in this, or I think you'd like to talk to each other. It's just something I do. And that's actually suited really well for doing artist management, because it's all about connecting your artist to the next opportunity and making those relationships that can help your artists succeed in their career. Not that different, actually, in some ways with what you do with kind of the leadership coaching aspects. It's all about helping artists to realize their full potential and coaching them in every aspect of what that looks like. And so just through a number of conversations with people who have done this before or who are in the music industry, and just told me that they thought I would be good at it, I was like, okay. I have, because of the psychology background, they're like, half of it is psychology, just trying to like understand how to deal with artists, and the psychology of the ups and downs of the daily life of being an artist. I'm a musician myself, so I can kind of speak their language. So that helps. But also my undergrad was in business. So kind of have a business mindset and being able to understand what drives because being an artist is a business, and it is, at the end of the day, they got to be able to survive. So it does need to be at least somewhat about that part of it. And then I have a long experience of 6 dedicated years doing project management, plus an additional 6 years of doing industrial psychology, where I did manage projects as well. So, and a lot of it's project management too, kind of, and managing the artist. So in about March of this year, I decided to kind of put my toe in the water and took on a client, which in this business I would just call clients my artists.
Okay.
So I took on my first artist and have been working with her. And then in May, I took on a second artist, and I'm helping them with setting up shows, and helped them with their summer tour. So just kind of diving in and doing that now. So I'm debating whether I'm going to take on any more artists right now. It's actually a lot of work to be able to do that. And I actually work my other job still part-time. So I'm doing this part-time and doing my other job that I had before part-time, just because, just like it is a business, and just like with any business, it takes a while to build up and cultivate those relationships.
So Sara, that's such a great point, and so my mind's going. There's like so many questions I want to ask you.
I can see it. I can see the wheels turning.
So one of the things that I know would be so helpful for anybody listening is to really take us back to that moment when you specifically decided to make this pivot and go to Nashville. Like, how were you able to weigh out all of the pluses and the minuses to really go after this phenomenal opportunity you were creating for yourself?
That's a great question. I think I'm kind of a big believer in making lists, the pros and cons list, and kind of figuring out what are the pros, what are the cons. I didn't do that as much this time because I'm a person of faith, and I really believe that this is where I was being called to. So I kind of was like, okay, this is where God wants me to go. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to trust that, like, if doors open and if this becomes possible, then that's the sign that I'm supposed to do it. And so I checked with my job, and at the time I was working in the DC office, and I knew they had a telework policy, but I wasn't sure if they were going to let me do it. I had to apply for it, and I got accepted into that. So I was like, okay, I have a job. That's great. That's already, first thing down. Second thing, I need a place to live. Where am I going to live? I don't even know yet. And so I actually used Facebook, the Facebook marketplace, and where they have like different postings, and I found a place to live pretty quickly there. And so things just started kind of falling into place. But at the end of the day, I looked at it like an adventure, and I also kind of counted the costs and said, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario if this doesn't work out, moving to Nashville, and I just hate it here and I can't stand it and I want to move back, I can just move back. I mean, I had the same job. I was really blessed with that, to be able to kind of have that flexibility. And I knew that would work out for me. I recognize that's not necessarily the situation for everyone. Sometimes when, most of the time, I think when people make a move like that, they kind of, that's it. It's their all. They're going all in. And I kind of suspected that I would be staying here a while, but I sort of gave myself, I think, that plan B option of, okay, if this doesn't work out, what am I going to do? And thought all of that through in advance.
Sure. And it's such a great description in terms of knowing where the risk management is, but having the safety net that's necessarily there in case you need it, right? I mean, we don't just jump to things without really having figured them out or weighing out the pros and cons for all of it. And so while this is scary and daunting and exciting all at the same time, there are things that you did for yourself, both personally as well as professionally, to ensure there was not only just some stability, but also to minimize some risk in the process.
Yeah, and I would recommend that for anyone trying to make that kind of a decision, to really think that through. But I don't know about your listeners, but I kind of tend to be the kind of person that sometimes has like analysis paralysis, where I just like think about something for so long, and then I just don't ever do it because I'm just thinking about it so long, and what are all the contingencies and what are the problems, what could go wrong. And sometimes you just got to jump in and do it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, life's too short. And I'm all about, I'm pretty risk averse. So I'm kind of like preaching to the choir here, like, or telling myself this as much as anybody else. And so me doing this was really a big thing for me, because I don't like taking risks. I don't, you know, I'm all about kind of wanting to play it safe and color within the lines and all that kind of stuff. So this was definitely way outside my comfort zone. For me, and I recognize that, but that's why I think kind of playing out that worst case scenario and saying, all right, you know what, it'll still be okay, you know, as long as I have an idea of what the worst thing that I can think of would happen, like how do I handle that? And that really helped me a lot.
And we both know that on this entrepreneurial journey that we're both on, it's you know, it's scary, right? You stick your toe in a little bit and you're like, oh, I'm not really so sure. And then, but there is something inside that keeps driving us to move forward in that. And that's one of the things I just love about your story so much. So the next question here is, you know, what have you learned in this whole process? Like, what have you learned from this career pivot in moving from DC and going to Nashville and shifting your workload to part-time and being an artist manager? What's the big learning moment or takeaway for you right now?
For me, it's that it's a process and you can't rush it. I think I really wanted things to just I want to just sort of snap my fingers and have it just kind of all fall into place. And it doesn't work that way. I mean, a business is work. Right. It is a job, and it's a lot of work. And oftentimes you're putting in more hours than you would have even for a 9-to-5 job. And it's just, and also the other thing, and I don't know if not necessarily every business is like this, but for sure in the music business, it's like this. It's all about those relationships. Relationships are key, which honestly, any business you do, it is about relationships, because people aren't going to come back to you and want to use your services or buy your products again if they don't like you, you know, and if you're not giving them good service and really cultivating some kind of relationship with them. But the thing about that is that relationships take time to foster. They don't just happen overnight. It's a cultivating process, and especially in a business where the way that you get your business is through networking and through building those relationships. There's a whole lot of work on the front end that you have to put in before you see any results and any outcomes on the back end. And so, one of my friends who has a business, and he's a successful videographer and has his own video business. He told me that, you know, he actually ended up kind of being fortunate that his business prospered within the first year. But he said, you know, and I've heard the statistic before that, you know, most businesses fail. And something like 90% or some huge amount, I don't know if you want to quote me on that statistic, but some huge amount of businesses fail because people just didn't stick it out long enough. Right. They just didn't wait long enough to see it prosper. And I was in a hurry, and I kind of got discouraged within the first 3 months, thinking, oh, wow, I've been doing this 3 months hardcore, really pushing it every day and really not seeing the results that I thought I would be seeing. And but then I talked to him about it, and I just sort of recognized, you know, this is true. You've got to give it time. Relationships take time. So that's been my biggest learning curve, is just being patient with myself, still putting in the work, but giving myself a little bit of grace to recognize that it doesn't matter how hard I work. Some things just take time. And the other thing I would say is that we need each other. I think that having a community of other entrepreneurs and other people who are kind of doing the same thing, even if it's not in the same industry, but who are kind of out there forging a path, I think it's really important to help each other and to encourage one another. If I hadn't had that conversation with my friend, I don't know, maybe I would have given up. And having that conversation made me realize that, you know what, it is true. It is going to take time, and I need to give myself a little bit of a break.
It's so well said. And just kind of piggybacking on your networking comment, I'm a firm believer that when we walk into a networking conversation, the question we ask is, how can I help you? Right? You know, how am I able to serve you in some way, or how is my network able to serve you in some way that I can connect you with somebody I think there is so much power in being able to connect, because that person whom you may meet that you may think never, ever, ever would be a client or someone with whom you would work with or partner with, they may have this tremendous network that you don't know about because you never bother to ask. Mm-hmm. And so we can open ourselves up to simply say, how can I help you? And then more often than not, if they've heard you and they understand the power of networking, they will ask you the same thing in return. Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation with somebody just this week, and I asked that question, and it really kind of like stumped him a little bit. He was like, I've never been asked that question before. And my answer always is, great, now you get to figure it out. You don't have to give me an answer right now, but that question is still there for you whenever you need. If there's a way I can connect you, or I can support you or serve you in any way in this relationship, let me know. Let me be able to help you in that regard.
Yeah, it's so important. I think just as people to have those communities. And it is funny because, like I said, Nashville does have 2 degrees of separation. And you mentioned, like, you just never know who you're going to know somebody who can help you or somebody you can help. I mean, I think it's reciprocal, right? We need to be able to kind of pay it forward and, you know, people help us. So we need to help other people. But it is funny because even just within my small circle of people that I know here in Nashville, like I'm connected to, you know, big names. I mean, I'm, you know, good friends with producers and people who are musicians traveling on tour with various different big name artists and stuff like that, that I'm like, well, you know, should I tap into those networks or not? And, you know, it gets kind of tricky when you're dealing with friends too, because you don't want to push those relationships. But I think that, those kinds of things, you know, I think we have not because we ask not, for some things. And so, I'm trying to find, you know, I'm still learning, right? So I'm navigating these waters too. And I'm trying to find like, what's the right balance of, you know, networking, especially when you're dealing with friends, to not damage friendships, but to really like build those friendships up, but also not to leave things on the table that, you know, could be really great opportunities just because I'm, you know, not feeling brave enough to ask about it.
Such a good point. So if you could just, you know, for a couple of minutes, just peel back the curtain a little bit. So what is your work like being an artist manager and kind of like the day-to-day stuff that you get to do? Yeah,
well, right now, the day-to-day stuff, I have one particular artist that I'm putting in a lot of time with, and we're really trying to build up her branding. Mm-hmm. And just really get a lot of traction for an EP that she's already got out. And for those of you who don't know, an EP is basically like a 5-track song, five song project. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the route that a lot of artists are going these days, rather than releasing a full album, which, you know, a full album can have, you know, 10, 12, you know, songs, kind of a, you know, as many as 15, 16 songs, you can have like a full album. But a lot of artists are choosing to produce and release smaller projects, sort of like bite-sized chunks. And that's for a number of different reasons that I won't bore you with. But it's kind of the trend is to release singles and to release EPs. So she released an EP. The artist I'm talking about is named Jacqueline. That's spelled ZHAKLINA. If any of you guys want to check out her music, you can go to jacqueline.com. A little plug there. But she has a heart for suicide prevention and awareness, as well as like drug abuse awareness. And so that's kind of what her heart is. And we want to get her message out there a little bit more. So we've been working recently with a new record label who's going to be doing all of her social media promotions and other marketing and promotions for her, as well as helping with producing some of her new video content. She's got a couple of music videos that we're shooting in just a couple of weeks here, and then going to be releasing those within the next few months. So that's what we're working on right now. Is we're in you know, going through contract negotiations, and I'm attending meetings. So I go with meetings with her to meet the label. I set up all the scheduling with her. Like, I'm going to be present at all the video shoots with her, helping to coordinate all of that. We're also doing some live shows. So we have a couple of shows this week. We have already at least a couple shows next month booked. She has regular shows at least 2 to 3 times a week here in Nashville. So it's just a variety of different performances, and I don't go to all of them because that's just a lot of stuff to go to, but I do go to at least some of them and just try to support her and encourage her. I've also done a lot of coaching with her on just general leadership stuff, the same kind of stuff that you would talk to anyone you're trying to develop as a person, but also things like talking about, well, what is your branding? Where are any gaps that we need to work on in terms of kind of building your image? So do we have, when in the early days of working with her, I was like, okay, we need a logo. Do you have a logo? Do you have business cards? What's your website look like? Do you have branding, like, do you have a vision for where you want to go, and how does everything that you do fit into your vision? What's your social media presence like? What kind of things are you posting? And we talked a little bit about strategies for that, and how to build the followership, and how to build consistency within what she was doing in all of her efforts. Coming up with, YouTube video series, and just working through a lot of different things that we could do strategy wise to sort of get more kind of impact for the work that she has done already. I think that a lot of artists have a tendency to just put all this time and effort and money into writing a song, and then producing it, recording it, and then releasing it. And then it's like, now what?
Yeah.
The song's out there, and then they just move on to the next song. And it's a wasted opportunity. And so we're trying to really leverage work she's already put in, stuff that's already produced, and really have it really have an impact. And she's a fabulous singer-songwriter and has an amazing voice, not only musically wise, like vocally, she's a powerful singer, but also just has this message and this voice that I think needs to be heard. So I truly believe in her. And I think that if anybody out there was wanting to get into artist management, that's something that you would need to take away from it, is that you can't invest in somebody that you don't really believe in. And so the artists that I work in, I'm very particular about who I have taken on to work with, because I want to really believe in them and kind of have alignment with the vision that they see. So that's kind of been the day to day, and it's pretty busy actually.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds it so much in part because of the relationship that you are building with her and continue to foster to move her career forward, which is what you get to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sara, so as we start to wrap up here, there is one question that I use to really wrap up all the interviews, and it ties so much into the theme of my work and the people who listen to this show. So very simply, what advice would you give to someone who's creating their next advancement opportunity?
Oh, wow. The first thing I would say is to, if we're talking about whether that be in a job or starting a business, to really kind of check your intentions and check the alignment that you have within your personal life goals. When you're looking to advance, I think a lot of people just want to advance for the sake of advancement, and then end up being in a place where they're not happy. And even if you have maybe the money you wanted or the success you wanted, it's still not what you really needed to be fulfilled. So I think that number one, kind of taking a step back and really evaluating, where is this going to get me in terms of meeting my life goals? How much in alignment is this with what I want to do, with the kind of person I want to become, and the things that I want to achieve in my life? So I think that's the number one thing. And then the number two thing is, I think, kind of doing what I did when I made that pivot to Nashville, and saying, okay, best case scenario is this, worst case scenario is that. And can I deal with either of those things? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is still yes, I would say go for it.
Great advice, and thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. Your story is truly amazing, and what I'm most excited about is just seeing how this all progresses and where it gets to go. So thank you for taking the time to talk with me today and for sharing your story with everybody.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me, John. It's just been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you. And so, Sara, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, reach out to you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can either direct message me on Facebook, or if you would like to email me, you can email me at Sara, that's SARA, at Viceroy Talent, and that's spelled V as in Victor, ICEROY, Viceroy Talent.com.
Great. All right. And we got that up there on the screen for anybody to see as well. And they can certainly connect with you on Facebook as well, as you mentioned. All right. So, Sara, thanks again for sharing your story. Everyone, thanks for listening, and hope you enjoyed today's show. And I'll be back with you again next week with another episode. In the meantime, take care of yourself and go out and create your next advancement opportunity. We will talk to you later. Take care. Thanks again, Sara.
Thank you. Bye-bye.